the last few years, there has been a very welcomed and appreciated push for art in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I have loved it. My favorite thing is seeing new pieces of artwork about scripture stories that have never been painted before. Now listen, but I'm still waiting for someone to paint the Last Supper with women at the table because, hello, who do you think cooked the food? No one's done it yet. Women were there, let's be clear. There is just so much art that relates to the Bible, but did you know that there is an entire Book of Mormon art catalog that is free for you to use, and it's amazing. My guest today has spent years putting it together, and she is here to show us some of that art, specifically art portraying the women in the Book of Mormon. Yes, that exists, and you're going to love it. I think you're going to really enjoy this discussion, and we're going to want you to go and check out the art that we're going to talk about. Welcome to the second episode of Unnamed Women of the Book of Mormon, a special bonus series from the Sunday on Monday podcast brought to you by LDS Living and Deseret Bookshelf Plus. Now, if you're thinking, well, what's Sunday on Monday? It is a weekly podcast where we take the Come Follow Me lesson for the week and we really dig into the scriptures together. And I get to invite friends to join me in the discussion, and they tell stories, and it's so much fun. And if you want to know more about this podcast, click in the link for our description, or you can go to ldsliving.com/Sunday on Monday and sign up for a free 30-day trial of Deseret Bookshelf Plus, where you can find every single episode of goodness. Now, as I said earlier, I get to invite friends, and that is my favorite thing about the Sunday on Monday podcast and this podcast. So it's always a little bit different each week with different opinions and thoughts. And so today, my guest joining me for the Unnamed Women of the Book of Mormon art episode is Mary Farley Roney and Jennifer Champeau. Hello, you two.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
This is exciting now, Jennifer. Okay, Jennifer's the one. She is the one that has spent years, what do you even say, curating, putting together, cataloging? Is that curating the right word?
All of the above, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, tell us about that work real quick.
So the Book of Mormon art catalog is a free open access website, and we are gathering all artwork based on the Book of Mormon from all over the world, from the very earliest 19th century images to things that are just coming out right now. We have almost 4,500 pieces cataloged already in there. And it is just so exciting to see the way people are engaging with the scriptures and sharing their testimonies through the art.
Where can people find all of this art, Jenny?
So it's bookofmormonartcatalog.org, O-R-G.
And I'm going to highly recommend everybody use it. It's so perfect for lessons. In fact, in a couple of weeks, Jenny is going to be on the episode again, and she's going to show us all of the artwork for Abinadi. That whole story. There's so much art I didn't even know existed. And so we do a whole episode using just the artwork about Abinadi, and it was so cool. So cool. Now, the reason we have Mary Farley Roney here is because I've known Mary since she was just a little tiny girl. And she has blossomed and evolved into this incredible artist. And so I thought, if we're going to talk about art and women in art, then we have to have two people who know about art, and I'm not one of them. So Mary, hello, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Tammy. I'm excited to be here.
And Mary, tell us a little bit about your background in art.
Yeah, so I have studied art. I feel like the first art lesson I took, I was probably 8 years old. So for years and years, I've studied under various artists, both within the church, outside of the church, and have been able to learn from them. I don't work professionally in it, but it's something I've spent a lot of my life studying, dedicating my life to, and I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world.
And she's created incredible pieces, which I have seen. You've won awards for your pieces. Like, you're a good artist. Let's be clear. I'll toot your horn for you because you won't do it. No, it's going to be awesome. So this is going to be a neat discussion, very unique. So if you want to follow along with us and look at all of this art, you can find a link, which is going to be in the description of this episode, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Just scroll down and click on the link. And that's where you're going to find all of the artwork that Jennifer has brilliantly compiled and chosen for this discussion. Now, Jennifer and Mary have already looked at the art and they have critiqued it. I have not. So this is my first time seeing it. And I purposely chose that because I wanted my reaction to be raw, just like all of yours would be, seeing it for the first time and going, what? And asking questions. And then I'm excited to hear what Mary and Jenny have to say about the artwork. So Jenny, take it away. Tell us about some of the pieces you chose and why you chose them about women in the Book of Mormon.
Okay, so Tammy, as you look at this first piece, I'm going to challenge you to not look at the caption and just look at the art and tell me if you can figure out what is going on here.
Okay, I'm so excited.
So Tammy, I want you to just first tell me what you see here and see if you can figure out who the figures are.
Okay, I see a woman, and is she holding a dagger in her hand?
Yeah. Yes, there are two men holding little daggers or swords. Mm-hmm.
Oh, two men are, and she's putting her arms in, like she's almost trying to stop a fight, it looks like.
That's right. Yeah, very good.
Oh, she is?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it? What's it called?
So this is Nephi protected from his brethren by the daughter of Ishmael and her mother.
Oh,
so
I love it.
Yeah, this is a scene that we hardly ever see visualized. It comes from 1 Nephi chapter 7. And we know that as they're in the wilderness, Laman and Lemuel, some of the daughters of Ishmael and two of the sons of Ishmael are rebelling against Nephi and Lehi and their families. And in verse 19 of 1 Nephi 7, Nephi wrote that they were angry with him and they sought to lay hands upon me. But behold, one of the daughters of Ishmael, yea, and also her mother, and one of the sons of Ishmael, did plead with my brethren, insomuch that they did soften their hearts, and they did cease striving to take away my life.
Oh, I would say this makes my heart so happy. I've never seen this artwork. Oh, why do you love it? Tell me, and then Mary, jump in.
Well, I just love that this centers a woman here. She is clearly a heroic figure. She's dressed in white, which maybe symbolizes her purity and also just visually draws our eye towards her. Yeah. And she has this very strong pose, as you said, with her arms outstretched. Oh, yeah. But then she has this kind of red shawl tied around her waist, again, kind of drawing our eye to her. And I'll just say, too, this was done in 1890. So this was one of the earliest Book of Mormon paintings ever done. This is in the Church History Museum collection, but it's not really ever on display. So we're lucky we get to see it. This is in the Book of Mormon art catalog if you want to learn more about it. And this was done by an artist named George Ottinger. He grew up in Pennsylvania, joined the church in 1857. He had trained at Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, came out to Utah, and this was part of a series of paintings on the life of Nephi that was commissioned by the Deseret Sunday School Union. So this was turned into a lithograph and printed in Juvenile Instructor. So it was a black and white illustration when it went out kind of to the public there in Utah. So tell me, Mary and Tammy, what do you think about this piece?
Well, I can share something I loved when I first saw this piece. And I mean, this whole story behind this, something I love is the idea that this woman is a peacemaker, that she's in the middle of this situation. Hey, let's cut it out. Let's move on, trying to help hold this peacemaker role, but how strong she is. And I think when we often think of peacemaking, it's, maybe more of a passive action. Peacemaking is something done passively, but she is so strong. Like you said, it is just a strong pose that she's giving. And those arms stretched, I mean, it can allude to so many things. It's almost a Christ-like position on the cross. And something I thought is, the white, the red, the pose, it's such a Christ-like comparison. And then when you throw in this strength of peacemaking and how Christ is the ultimate peacemaker, but how strong he is and the strength that he brings to all of those situations, that was something that stood out to me that I just loved about this piece.
Oh, Mary,
brilliant, Mary.
I like how you made her a type of Christ. That's so cool. I think
you're exactly right. Yeah. Good.
No, I saw what looks like Joseph up there in the corner, and it looks like he's rolling his eyes. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, so that's Nephi.
Oh, is that Nephi? I thought it was the younger brother, like rolling his eyes, like, you guys. Oh, that's Nephi? Oh, his arms are bound.
There you go. Yeah.
It is Nephi. He's still rolling his eyes, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is the moment when he's praying for strength.
Oh, yeah.
Praying that the bands will be loosed. I don't know.
Wow. Well, And I like how to me, I'm struck right now in scripture about the word wilderness, and it is very wilderness. Like there's no leaves on those dead pine trees. Like it just looks so destitute. And in my mind, I'm just thinking like a woman would think like, you guys knock it off. We got a lot to do out here. I got kids to raise. We have food to eat. You've got to go hunt. Like, can we just stop with the fighting? And the way he painted that to me, it looks so dire. And just wilderness.
Yeah, Tammy, I love that. I love that insight. I think he's using this as a symbolic device as an artist to show the sort of fracture in the family and the sort of spiritual death that comes from this kind of fighting and just not loving and caring for each other.
Oh, that's such a good picture. Oh, my heart is so happy. How have I never seen this? I am so sad.
Right? I know.
I mean, where are the women? Oh, the women are right here in the art. This is so cool. Okay, what's next? Oh, I love this.
Okay. So this second piece is actually by a student at BYU. The Book of Mormon art catalog is funded by the Maxwell Institute at BYU. And with them, we hosted a student art contest on Book of Mormon art this past summer. And we're actually doing a second one right now this year. So Taya Vassar is a student at BYU, and she did this charcoal drawing. It's called And They Were Strong. Tammy or Mary, who do you think we're looking at here?
Well, I know I've read the description, so I do know that we have, if I remember correctly, it's one of the women or daughters of Ishmael in the wilderness, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, look at her hand cradling that baby into her neck and bosom. Mm-hmm. And is it depicting the scripture that says they were able to feed their children in the wilderness? They were able to breastfeed their children, and that the Lord made them strong because they were keeping the commandments?
Yes, that's exactly what the artist said. So this comes from 1 Nephi 17, verses 2 and 3. And just like you said, that they were able to feed their children. They were strong, yea, even like unto the men. So I love, like you pointed out, Tammy, I love the tender way that she cradles this baby. But I think that contrasts really nicely with the very strong frontal gaze as she's looking right out at us, at the viewer. And I feel like that portrays a lot of strength. So you have this really interesting mix of strength and tenderness and nurturing all at the same time.
You know, as you're talking, in my mind, I'm thinking, I hope everyone listening to this episode uses this as a lesson. Like, if you're teaching young women at any point, I hope you sit down and show every one of your young women these pieces of artwork, because I've already felt the spirit, and we're on picture number 2. Her gaze, the way Taya drew her with the jawline and the depth of her eyes and her cheekbones. I mean, there is something so resolute about this woman and firm. I love this. Keep talking, both of you. Mary, what do you guys notice?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, in my opinion, I think anyone would say this is the epitome of women, that we have these two parts. Women are so strong, and we've also been given this gift of this nurturing, this compassion that women are capable of. And I love the mix of those two things. To me, again, it speaks women. It's strength, it's compassion, and that's what we are. I like to think that's what we are. We're strong and we're compassionate. We're awesome. And that's what I think this painting or this charcoal drawing just shows.
Yeah. Mary, I'm curious, in your own artwork, have you ever worked in this medium of charcoal drawing?
I have. Charcoal is a lot of fun. It can be tricky, but it can also be so simple to use as well. So that was something that I also loved, was the simplicity of it, where I think because she chose this medium of using charcoal, it strips away the color. And so you really do rely on your lines, your forms, and your composition. And that's what I think makes this piece so strong, is the fact that because there is that lack of color and we are relying so much on the composition and the line work, you do focus on that depth, that intensity in her face, that strength in her face, along with that compassion with the child.
Mm. Oh, thanks. That's a great insight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like also just choosing the medium of charcoal spoke to me a little bit about these women being in the wilderness, and maybe, charcoal was a material that they would have had maybe, although,
yeah,
I love
that. Yeah. So just something kind of earthy and organic about it.
I just can't believe how it's not a mess. Because in charcoal in my mind, I'm like, where are all the fingerprints? If I had done this, it would be a wreck. Like, she's such a good artist. And the lines, like you were saying, how she was able to get everything. That hand, the hand clasping that baby. Oh,
yeah.
Well, and something so cool. I watched an interview with her actually, and she was discussing her process and her method. And this piece, I think she mentioned she did in church. She, while in church sitting, just drew it and then finished it later at home, which to me was even cooler, where I'm thinking, being in church, you're in that great environment, but speaks to her skill level, where you're right, Tammy, charcoal is so messy, and she created this beautiful piece sitting in church.
Yeah.
Wow.
That video, by the way, is on the Maxwell Institute YouTube channel if you are interested in seeing the artist talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So cool. It's a beautiful piece. Thank you for sharing that one.
Okay, so we're going to do one more on this theme of women in the wilderness because I know in your first episode, Tammy, you talked about Sariah. So I wanted to make sure we had an image of Sariah here because I loved your discussion of her. This is by Rose Daytalk Doll.
I love Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Rose is amazing and a very kind person, incredibly talented artist. And she's Filipina American. She lives in Utah now. And I love this depiction of Sariah. Again, the strength. She's heavily pregnant. We know she had at least 2 children in the wilderness, right? Jacob and Joseph. And so here's one little toddler she's already born, and then about to have another, pulling a camel with their tents and blankets on it. To me, I just feel like this is a very visceral piece to think about being that pregnant with a little child walking through the desert. I'd love to know your thoughts about it.
I would say the same, Jenny. It's just such a beautiful depiction of strength in every aspect. What I was so drawn to was the colors that she incorporated and the palette that she used, which it's just mixing warmth and the cool tones with it to where it's so strong yet so subtle at the same time, which I think can play a lot to Sariah and just who she is as well. That strength that you mentioned, the faith that she had of being a woman coming from, wealth and a comfortable, wonderful lifestyle to being well pregnant, living in the desert, pulling camels, unbelievably uncomfortable. And I don't know, the colors just are what really struck me, where I think it just stood out and spoke to her and that faith.
Yeah. For me, I'm looking at this, and the little boy, the way she drew his face, I'm just amazed by anyone that can do artwork. Kudos to both of you, because I have zero skill set, but I can look at something and go, his little face looks like he's just this little boy, like, we're on an adventure. Like, he's so unassuming. Like, isn't this fun? And her face is like, well, here we are. We're in the desert and I'm pregnant, but she's not mad about it. She's just like, this is the way she has her hand placed on her belly, and she's holding the camel and a baby in front of her. And she is like, somebody just grabbed a quick snapshot of him, and she's just like, this is my life. And she's not mad about it. She's just like, this is it. And I think so many women are like that. You reach a point where you're like, this is my life. Okay, let's do this. We're going to do this. And I'm going to pull camels, and I'm going to set up tents, and I'm going to do it pregnant.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed too is that we often see Sariah in art as an older sort of matriarch.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really great. But I like that this shows her as a mature woman, right? She's not too young. She's not too old. She's a woman that has already had a number of children. But she's not an old lady, right? She's like me, you know?
Yeah.
And I like that. It feels very relatable. Like she's just sort of at the prime of her life here.
Yep.
I love that.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that, but I love that.
Yeah, I do too, Jenny. I like how you said, she's like me.
Yeah.
I mean, when an artist can evoke that, when you can look at art and go, oh, she's like me, you know it's a great piece. That's so cool.
Yeah, love it.
Me too.
Okay, so we'll move on from Lehi and Nephi's family and jumped over to the Jaredites. This piece is by Caitlin Connolly, who's also in Utah. It's called Holding Holy Things, parentheses, Sister of Jared. So
Wow.
I love just the title. I think it's a little playful, right? We talk about the brother of Jared a lot.
Yes.
But what if he had a sister? Who's
Right?
the sister of Jared?
Oh, that's so neat. You would never think, I've never even once considered that he would have had a sister. He could have, absolutely.
Yeah. And we don't know. The scriptures don't say, but I think it's fun that she's able to just be a little creative in her reading, in her artistic portrayal, right? So this isn't depicting a specific moment or scripture or narrative passage, but she's sort of drawing on the themes of Ether, chapter 3, and maybe thinking about how they might apply to women. So we see this woman holding the 16 glowing stones, and she's cradling them kind of gently, as a woman might, right? Cradle something precious. Her gaze is sort of unfixed. I feel like she's not quite looking at the stones. It feels sort of like an internal gaze, like she's pondering something. She's maybe having a moment of reflection or introspection. I think this is interesting that Caitlin is just opening up space for thinking about how women, like your podcast, how unnamed women are still there. They're still part of the story if we look for them, but we have to sometimes be a little creative to find them.
Oh, I absolutely agree. When you can read through the lines, that's where you find the women. And isn't that kind of true of life in general? Like so many times we're just in the background a little bit. And if you can just look through the lines, women are always there. They're always there. They just are. They have to, I mean, clearly, otherwise there would be no men, no children, no family. And so I think I like this. It's just changing my view. Now when I go back and read that story, I will ask, where is his mom and dad even? His mom. Where's Jared's mom, you know, and all of that family? Because you know the whole family went. We know he just had a brother, the brother of Jared, but it's a lot of boats. It's 8 barges. And we're going to fill it with families, and they're going to put 2 stones in each barge. So there had to be enough people to fill up 8 barges.
And then I think Caitlin Connolly is also thinking, okay, so after they get there, what did they do with these stones? Did they become kind of a holy relic for these people? And maybe, maybe this woman.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm just noticing it now for the first time, Jennifer. I love that you said that, because the formation of the stones, they're almost in a cairn. Like, when you go camping and you stack the rocks up to remind you of where you've been. I just realized that they're kind of, like a reminder of where they've come from. Every time they see that little, or like the story in the Old Testament where they took the stones at the water and laid them in stacks so people could remember.
Yeah.
That's neat. I wonder if that's why she drew it like that.
Huh. I don't know, but I like that insight. That's great.
Oh, I love that
picture.
And I love Caitlin Connolly's art. I mean, her art to me just speaks to women in so many different areas of life, so many different things, experiencing things. And I love that she's taken a classic Book of Mormon story that we see from the lens of brother Jared, but applied it to women, that, you could look at that and say the same thing Brother Jared did of taking these stones and having that faith and saying, help us with this. I can take that and apply it to myself as well. I think that's something beautiful about art, is it allows people to apply things to themselves, and it can be for the good or for the bad, but how do I visualize myself in this, or how can I connect with this idea or with this concept?
Yeah, that's great, Mary.
I have to point out something that I think is so cool. So I'm looking at her dress, like, why did she do the lines this way? Especially her skirt. And her skirt is familiar to me, and it just hit me. If you go to facsimile number 1 in the Book of Abraham, and it's this picture right here. Look how cool this is, you guys. Look at those lines at the very bottom. They're the exact same way her dress is. They're shaped it's the exact same drawing. And there's a number that shows that. And here's what those lines mean in this picture. According to the Book of Abraham, it says, it signifies the expanse or the firmament over our heads, but it connects to a Hebrew word which means high or in the heavens.
Ooh.
Now, isn't that neat?
Wow.
If she used that to connect to the heavens in her dress, it looks exactly like it. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's the great thing about art too, is even if she didn't intend it, it means that for you. And I think that's a really,
yes,
that's a really neat
cool.
connection. Yeah.
That's something I
this
found
is so fun.
with so many paintings. I'll have people look and say, oh, wow, did you have this meaning behind it? And a lot of time I say, oh, no, but if it works, great. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant it to be.
You bet. Totally. Oh, that's so cool. Wow, I love this.
Yeah, she's a great artist. Tammy, you're good at this. This is great.
I should have gone into art.
Yeah, you should have.
It's your calling, Tammy.
Just kidding. As I say to the other ones, I'm like, she's frustrated. That woman. Yeah. And then I also say silly things like that. Like, she's done. She doesn't want to be in the wilderness anymore. Her face shows it. Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. What is this? Oh, I love this painting.
This is Abish. Now, Abish, we know, is in Alma chapter 19. She is the woman who, when the king has fallen to the ground in this sort of moment of conversion, like spiritual conversion, it says, so this is in Alma 19, verse 16. So everyone in the room had fallen to the earth, save it were one of the Lamanitish women, whose name was Abish, she having been converted unto the Lord for many years on account of a remarkable vision of her father. So when she sees the servants of Lamoni and the queen and the king and Ammon, they're all lying on the ground in like a spiritual stupor. She knew that it was the power of God, and supposing that this opportunity, by making known unto the people what had happened among them, that by beholding the scene, it would cause them to believe in the power of God. Therefore, she ran forth from house to house, making it known unto the people. So I love this idea of Abish running. But here in this scene, the artist, Anna Wright, is looking at that one line at the end of verse 16, where it says she had been converted on account of a remarkable vision of her father. So some scholars have pointed out that this phrase is a little bit ambiguous.
Yeah.
Is it that her father had a vision of something spiritual and told her about it? Or maybe her father had passed on and she had a vision and saw her father? Or maybe she had a vision and saw her father, meaning her heavenly father. There's different possibilities here. And so the artist, Anna Wright, is being a little bit speculative, right? And thinking, okay, well, what if it is one of those other possibilities? What if she is the one that had the vision? And so that's what we see here is Abish having a vision. And Anna Wright, I'll say, is also a BYU student, or what she was when she painted this anyway.
Well, I'm so grateful that you brought up that dual meaning, because I was just looking that up. It's one of my favorite things about her that we taught 4 years ago. And her name in Hebrew is Abish, and Ab means father and Ish means man. Father is man. So that's what her name means in Hebrew. And all scholars take that, like father is man, to mean exactly what you said. Like, is this a vision of her father as a man? Is this her vision of God as a man, as somebody that she worships? She's now acknowledging, like, he's real. He really does exist. And so I think that it's just, I love how you brought up it could be so many different things. And what she's seeing right here, I think she's having the vision and knowing who God is. That's what I interpret it as, like, he's real. He's really real.
Mm-hmm. Mary, as an artist, what do you think about her style here? It's a little bit abstracted.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, I love it. I love a good abstract painting personally, so I'm a big fan. But what I love is her conscious choice of what to abstract and what not to abstract. That it's very much a conscious choice that her face, her hand, that is very clear, but everything else is not, is more abstract. Mm-hmm. And I think that can pull in so well to this idea of a vision, of having a vision, that abstractness, I think, really, I don't know if emulates the right word, but really shows that idea of a vision, that it's abstract. It's not necessarily a clear, concrete thing, but that herself, her face, her body is clear, it's concrete, but she's in that midst of having that vision.
I love that, Mary.
That's Me too. Great.
Yeah, I hadn't considered the contrast between what parts are more detailed and what's more abstract. That's exactly right.
And I love that the artist painted her as a woman from the BIPOC community, the Black Indigenous people of color. I just think the skin tone is beautiful and the hair. Yeah. That's important.
It is. I mean, we need more religious art that speaks to our global membership in the church.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Good job, Anna.
Yeah.
Wow. Really cool. Whoa. Okay, this next piece. What?
Yeah.
That scares me. Oh my gosh, look at that. Yeah. I cannot believe someone did it.
This is intense. Yeah.
It's so intense.
So this is Morianton's maidservant. Mandy Jane Williams is a fantastic photographer. And so she does a whole series, and you can see them in the catalog, of women in the Book of Mormon, and they're all these different photographs. I think this is one of her most striking photographs.
Yeah.
Now we know the story of Morianton's maidservant is in Alma 50, right? We know she was beaten by Morianton and then came and told Moroni Morianton's plans to attack, and therefore was able to help God's people that way. So she was a really brave woman, and she went through some hard things. And I feel like that really comes across in this picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I feel like Tammy's first reaction says it all. I feel like that having something that striking, it calls question. I mean, you question, you want to know this woman more. You want to hear about the story. You want to hear all of it, which I think to me is a successful photograph. It's a successful piece of art, is if you look at it and you have that kind of gut reaction, like what Tammy had of, oh my gosh, that scares me, but also it's really
jarring.
Yeah, very jarring.
And it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it.
Yeah. I feel
but I love
way.
it. But I'm like, gosh. And then like the way she did it, in my mind, I'm thinking this woman, Morianton's maidservant, literally ran for her life. Wow.
Yeah. Now, if you're listening and you can't see the picture right now, it's just a single woman standing outside, and she's got scratches and bruises on most of her face, but she's standing strong, and she's holding up a light, like a little torch that she's carrying. And her pose actually reminds me a lot of a famous statue. Do you know what I'm thinking of?
Yes, it does look like the Statue of Liberty. That's what she did. Wow. Her act.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what Mandy Jane Williams intended, but to me, it really evokes that feeling of like liberty and freedom, and somebody who's willing to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard to do.
Oh, I love that, Jenny.
Yeah. What I appreciate about what she did is like my reaction. I think it's okay. Like, it does make me uncomfortable. I don't like it. And I think that's important for us to recognize that there's a lot of stories about women we don't like that are uncomfortable to talk about, but they're so important. And her story is so important that we have to be willing to sit with those uncomfortable stories and listen and maybe put ourselves in the position, like, what would we have done if we were the maidservant? And why is that included in the storyline? It didn't need to be. Mormon could have easily unwritten that or cut it out. Like, I just think it's really cool. It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, sometimes art makes us uncomfortable, and that helps us engage in a richer way. And you don't have to like the art for it to be effective art, right?
Oh yeah.
Or for it to be, to be good. Yeah.
In fact, I think Mary Jane would be really happy with my reaction. I think that's what she wants from the person who sees it, to just go, whoa, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I think successful artists are the ones that can do that, can evoke those kind of emotions, positive or negative. Even if it's negative emotions, you're a successful artist if you're able to evoke something. Because it means that your piece has meaning, that it has depth, that it calls for something when you look at it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I brought one more for you. This is a mother of stripling warriors. So the artist is Joseph Brickey. And we see in a sort of jungle scene, a mother saying farewell to two of her sons. One looks like he's about 12, the other's maybe 15. And she's sending them both off to fight, again, for liberty, right? This is in Alma 56. These boys who are faced with the task of defending their people because of the covenant that their parents had made to bury their weapons and not to fight anymore. But this younger generation hadn't made that covenant. So they agree to go fight. And they say they had been taught by their mothers that if they did not doubt, God would deliver them. And they say, we do not doubt, our mothers knew it. So I love this heritage of faith that's portrayed here as women pass on a strong belief in God, that he can protect us spiritually and sometimes physically.
Wow. The word that keeps coming to my mind as I'm looking at the colors and the lines and the way it's drawn is, the only word I can think of is, it's so soft. It just seems like to me it's soft and just beautiful. Like, it's just beautiful. Oh, I love this painting. This mother with her arms around her boys. If you zoom in, you can see fingers like her around his waist, and then he's embracing his mom with his arm around her shoulder. Oh.
Yeah, Joseph Brickey is a master at figurative art here. I mean, you just, that just comes across. It just looks so lifelike, and he's really captured so much emotion in, the pose of the younger boy as he leans on his mom's shoulder, but he's holding a spear, right, with his hands, like ready to be a man, but still looking for a little comfort from his mom before he heads off.
Yeah, and he looks 12. I mean, these boys look really the age they are in the story. Is no offense to Arnold Freeberg. We do love how he drew those young men, but this is more realistic, like, oh, these sweet little boys.
Yeah.
Well, and it speaks so much to, whenever I think of the story of the mothers of the stripling warriors, I think of the quote. It's been said by so many people. I think Brigham Young said it. So many different people have quoted something similar. It's around the idea of, if you educate a man, you educate a man, but if you educate a woman, you're educating a generation, or you're educating a nation. And to me, that speaks to it of, these boys knew because of their mother. And if I love this painting where the whole composition, if you look at it, it kind of all boils down to, the first thing your eye goes to is that hand, her hand on his shoulder. And that sense of nurturing, that sense of care and love and compassion and guidance. I feel like it evokes all of that just by that simple gesture of her hand on his shoulder.
Wow.
And I just have to say, she's beautiful. I love just also that he's opted for more of an indigenous, facial type and skin color. And again, just speaking to a broader audience and probably being a little more historically accurate too. And she just, I don't know, like you said, I like the softness and the strength with her.
Jenny, I have a question for you. I know we're getting close to ending, but I wanted to ask you, having studied all of these pieces of art done of women in the Book of Mormon and in the scriptures, I think it's something that we still within the church are lacking a lot of a diverse representation of women, of all different types of women throughout the scriptures or out of a religious context. So would love to know your opinion on what you think. I mean, being an artist myself, or maybe any artists listening, what do you think could be done to help broaden that inclusivity or that depiction of women in a religious setting, so more of us can look and relate and understand or put ourselves in that position?
That's a good question.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. That is such a good question and an important question. And this is really one of my goals for the Book of Mormon art catalog, is that as we index what's out there, we'll be able to see the gaps of what's missing. And so on the catalog website, you can search the art different ways. And one way you can search is by figure names. So just in preparation for our discussion today, I just looked through that list and clicked on all the women. And sometimes it's just somebody's wife, right? Lamoni's wife. We don't have a name, but sometimes we have a few names. So that might be a place to start. Just look through who are the women that appear already in Book of Mormon art and who's missing, or who, right? There's only, I think, like Morianton's maidservant, we only have 14 depictions of her, which isn't very many. We have 60 or 70 of Moroni, Captain Moroni. So, thinking about who's missing, or maybe other angles that you could take. I feel like sometimes when we just see, right, if there's only 14 images of Morianton's maidservant and we only see maybe one of them over and over in a church manual, then sometimes we might start to think in our mind's eye, that's how this really looked, because that's the only image we have in our head. But when we have a greater variety of art from artists with different backgrounds, coming from different countries, different lived experiences, we might start to see a different angle on the story, or a different way of interpreting it, or like a slightly different moment that we hadn't really thought about. And so I think that's one reason why this variety of art is important for us to have, not just for our history and our heritage, but for our devotional practice too, to make more space for engaging with the scriptures in new ways, and just helping us maybe be more thoughtful in the way we're thinking about these moments.
Oh, I like that. Well, this is my favorite thing about this. I don't want this to end. I feel like we could just go on for so much longer, and there's more artwork to see. But here's what my favorite thing about this, Jenny. And I don't even know if this was your goal when you set out to do this, but in just the last couple of minutes, the last 45 minutes we've talked about artwork, I have felt the Spirit. Every time you've put a picture up, I have felt something. That's amazing to think that the work you did allowed us to feel the Spirit. And then we got to talk about it. That is powerful. And usually we just keep to scripture the whole time, but this time we were in scripture and then we were in art. And when you can use more than one of your senses to learn from, I think God is there, and he's trying to teach us. And so we got to see, and we got to hear, we got to read, and we got to feel. So thank you so much for this labor of love. And I will just promote it for the rest of my life. I think what you're doing is wonderful. And I cannot wait to find out what comes more, because you're having, like you said, you're asking for more art to be done. Mary, get painting. You better submit something.
And now
send me your stuff.
Yeah, I want to see your stuff. And someone please paint the women at the Last Supper. That's all I'm saying. I've even reached out to professional artists saying, can you please do this? But no one's taken the bait. So I think there's a place for that. I love it. I love it. So thank you, both of you. You women are wonderful. Thanks for taking the time to discuss these art pieces. And I've loved what I have learned from both of you. You're the best. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
And thank you to those of you who were listening. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Unnamed Women of the Book of Mormon. It was so cool to talk about art. If you're interested in looking at all of the pieces of artwork that we talked about today, as well as looking at the entire catalog that Jenny has put together, I'm going to highly recommend that you go to the description of this episode on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. And then you're going to see the links to them. So go and look at them. I'd love to know if you had the same reaction that I did, especially for that last one, because that still is haunting me. And then if you want to find out more about our weekly Come Follow Me podcast, Sunday on Monday, go to ldsliving.com/Sunday on Monday. The Sunday on Monday study group, as well as Unnamed Women of Scripture, is a Deseret Bookshelf Plus original brought to you by LDS Living. They're written and hosted by me, Tammy Uzelak Hall. And today, our incredible study group participants were Jenny Champeau and Mary Farley Roney. Our podcast is produced by Koa Singer and me. It is edited and mixed by Koa Singer, and our executive producer is Aaron Hallstrom. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. And please remember, because I always like to say this at the end of every episode, you are God's favorite.